You just mentioned the unions. Wasn't Labor's Job Summit just a more public platform for trade unionists like Sally McManus to dictate economic policy in this country?
Well, Jake, look at the guest list, because the guest list almost tells you what the outcome was going to be. So small businesses, they represent, let's say, around 41% of Australians. One seat at Labor's Job Summit. And then you look at the union movement. Now, union membership in the private sector in Australia is less than 10% of the workforce. So, did they get that representation? No. They got around 33 of the seats, which is in excess of 25% of the representation. So this wasn't a summit for people to come together and talk about policy ideas to, as Mr Albanese said, get that higher productivity, get those wages moving, get that full employment. This was literally a summit to get people together, just to remind them that this is an endorsement of the ACTU's policies, and the number one policy being a return to the 70s and 80s and industry-wide shutdowns.
Well, Michaelia, just on that multi-employer bargaining, or industry-wide bargaining as they're calling it, you just said it'll take us back to the 1970s. I totally agree. Yep. But where on earth are the employer groups? They should be jumping up and down about this.
Well, I think finally what you've seen from the employer groups, but a few days after the announcement, and in particular looking at the front page of the Australian today, when you have a senior union member in Australia coming out and saying, absolutely, there is going to be industry-wide strikes once the Albanese government legislates industry-wide bargaining. I think they're finally working out that literally what they were offered by way of some modest changes to the Better Off Overall test, which we actually brought to the Parliament, Jake, 18 months ago. So I think that's further proof that 18 months ago, we brought to the Parliament modest changes to the boot that would have got more enterprise agreements being signed, that would have got productivity moving, that would have then seen those higher wages. And what did Mr Albanese and Labor do at the time? They opposed it for political reasons every step of the way. I say to Labor, if you really want to get wages moving in this country, if you really want those higher productivity returns, Jake, bring in the changes the Coalition proposed 18 months ago next week to the Parliament, and let's legislate them. But you see, they won't do that, because that's not what the ACTU wants. And given the millions of dollars that the union movement in Australia give to the Australian Labor Party, they need to pay their paymasters, and you don't pay that with good coalition policy.